dated March 7th, 2024. This notice was sent to the Burlington County Times, the Courier Post, the Pioneer Tribune newspaper as legal notice, and sunshine notice in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. It was also posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building.
Record attendance.
Mr. McNaughton?
Yes, they're here.
Mr. Sprague?
I don't know.
Mr. Moore?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Stone? Here. Mayor Hartman?
Here.
Mr. Lees had a prior conflict this evening. Mr. Burns?
Present.
Mr. Haynes?
Present.
And Mr. Boyd is here this evening.
Here.
All right, before we do public comment, I'd like to make an announcement with finance and hearing concerns. We would like to bring in beach engineering to reevaluate the building as well as Jay Rosen to provide an independent review of the building. What are the concerns?
Is that what you making a motion, or what are you doing?
If you wanna do a motion.
We'll make a motion first.
Okay, I would rather, I would be much more comfortable with an independent engineer, not associated with the project before, that deals primarily in older buildings. Structural detail.
Right, so, if I can hop in here for a second before we start doing, if there's gonna be a conflicting motions, if you will, what I would suggest is going to public comment then after the announcement, and then go into the reports. And then after reports, before committee comments, I think we can, if there's any appropriate motions, it would be at that time.
That's fine with me.
All right, public comment, you have 4 minutes to make your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. Who would like to go first? So, Mayor.
Oh. Like I said, I'd like to get this attendance at some of our recreation events. Mark Lemire, 32 Washington Way. Just really want to just bring something up quickly here because it's kind of time sensitive. As you know, we typically have an annual Memorial Day parade. I sent an email out late today, but I just want the board to consider something again because it's rather time sensitive. May 25th would normally be our parade, but of course the terminus of that parade is always for the township building. We don't know the state of the township building other than it's kind of a quasi construction zone. I don't know what it's going to do on May 25th, but because that's coming up here, we're going to have to start making some decisions on how we want to handle that. So copy the OEM coordinator on that, copy I think all of you on that. But I really don't want to wait another 2 weeks. So again, we just kind of, if I get you to start to consider how we might handle that, if we're going to postpone it or not have it this year, I think that's just important. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that there's a time sensitivity to that as we're coming in line. So we get that as a consideration, and perhaps we can figure out a way to communicate that back. I mean, I've asked everybody who participated in last year's parade, as far as volunteers, any volunteers, to give me their input as well. So we'll have that later this week as well. So, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lemire.
Mayor, can I jump on that just for a second? I have received a few emails from residents on Hawkins Road requesting that the parade start at the firehouse, as opposed to Seneca High School. I did forward that request on to Mr. Lemire, and, you know, he said that could all be part of the discussion. He's a little concerned about the logistics of closing down another road, but, if that can all be part of the discussion.
Are we discussing this matter now?
No, let's go.
Else, what can we talk about?
Yes,
Good evening, Joe Martin, 10 Waltham Drive. I have 2 comments that I want to make tonight. The first is on your tree ordinance. Ordinance 2024-2, removal replacement is posted on the Tabernacle website and is published at the handout over there. Under definitions, I don't see non-street tree defined in your ordinance, yet it's mentioned in your ordinance. DBH, which means the diameter of a trunk of a mature tree that's measured 4.5 feet above ground. Section 3, application process, reads a tree over 2.5 diameters. Now, well, you know about trees. Needs an application. A tree over 2.5 inches is a mature tree measured 4 feet off the ground. That seems strange. Let me finish. I only have a few minutes. Okay.
We're gonna discuss that.
Okay, section 3 also reads, one needs to apply in Woodland Township for the permit. That's what's in the ordinance.
No, that
Section
was-
2.
That was edited.
Section 2F, a planting strip. Section 2H, a street tree. Street trees and planting trees, by your definition, are owned by the township. They're in the public right of way. They're not owned by the township residents. In front of my house, from the end of the blacktop, back to the public right of way, all those trees belong to Tabernacle Township. They're not my trees. Why should I get a permit and pay you and get involved in a replacement process for trees that you're responsible for? Section 4, exceptions. I don't see the township excluded, so I suspect your public works and anybody that cuts trees on behalf of the township is going to be filing out these permits and doing the replacement program. Section 5, enforcement, reads, police department and other municipal officials of insert name of municipality. Well, we don't have a police department, we have New Jersey State Police. I don't think they're gonna be interested in enforcing your ordinance, okay? This ordinance is very unprofessionally written, and in case you're not aware where it says insert municipality, that would not be within, that would be Tabernacle Township, okay? There's thousands of trees along the 85 miles of roads that Tabernacle has. A lot of those trees are dead and they're leading into the roadway. They're your responsibility. I know of a friend of mine from Pemberton, a tree fell on his car on his way to church one day. Thank God nobody was in the back of that car. If those trees fall and hit a pedestrian or vehicle, it's on you. My second comment is on your road closure. I know a little bit about road closures. I know about the MUTD manual and about safe work zones. I used to do this stuff for a living. Today I rode around Tabernacle Township. I'd ask these state police to take a ride coming from Chatsworth into Tabernacle, from Medford into Tabernacle, down 206 and try to turn, going up 206 and go down Carranza Road from Moore's Meadow or from the high school and see where those detour signs lead you. They lead you nowhere. If you're going down Carranza Road, the last sign that's an arrow going straight is right by the high school. You get to 206, there's no sign. When you come down Carranza Road coming into the town hall, when you get to the intersection, you know what that sign says? It says ramp is closed. Where's the ramp? There's no ramp there. So the county has a permit process. It's a 37-page procedure. I'm very familiar with that procedure. I remember when Joe Brickley wrote it. I also know that your solicitor contacted Joe Brickley to have the road closed. You have 24 hours from that call to get an application to the county. You make that application. That application requires a traffic control plan sealed by a traffic control engineer, not what's out there. These guys will tell you they work with traffic control. That nowhere near complies. That is very, very confusing. It also requires a TIR, which is a traffic interference report, that's consistent with the MUTCD manual, which is the manual of uniform traffic control devices in the state of New Jersey. It also requires insurance, $1 million occurrence, $2 million aggregate. It requires auto liability, $500K each, $1 million accrual. It also requires you to hold Burlington County harmless. So did you submit the application with all these documents? If so, I'd like to see them. And did you review the county's 37-page document, which is their policy for closing roads? Also, we have a paid administrator and we have a public works director. Why is our solicitor contacting the county to close a road? It's a normal, everyday process that should be handled by the professionals that work for the township. Who designed the traffic control plan? Who designed the TIR plan? As I said, it's very, very confusing. Do yourselves all a favor tomorrow. Take a ride and see where all those detours lead you. They lead you nowhere. You are putting the traveling public at risk. And if there's an accident, it's going to be on you because the lawsuits are going to come back to the traffic control plan that you did not implement. That's in compliance. That's not in compliance with the county's road plan. That's all I have. Thank you.
Evening, Jason with Lewis Orchard Court. I don't usually come with prepared comments, but I do have 3 distinct topics I want to discuss. so I'll just hand this in if I run out of time. And yes, Fran, I have a copy for you, and so you don't need to over this. Three topics are: one, the Friends of Cyrus Schoolhouse; two, you made a major mistake at the last meeting, separate from whether demolishing the town hall was the correct decision, although based on the announcement, improv that section tonight. And three, this township has a major communication problem. First, when the township committee held a meeting at Seneca in December of 22, I made a number of suggestions, as did a number of other people, of options other than building this new town hall complex. For context, I believe Mr. Moore was the only person who was then and still is a member of the township committee. Two of the suggestions I made were: one, offering to buy the Friends of Cyrus out of the schoolhouse, even if above market value, and two, using eminent domain to take it over. To my knowledge, in the last 16 months, neither of these options were explored. I urge you to consider either or both of these options. They bought the schoolhouse in 2020 for $850,000, less if you deduct a portion of closing costs and upgrades that the school district made as part of closing. Even if you were to do something absurd, like offer Friends of Cyrus 4, 5, or even 10 times what they paid for it 4 years ago, you would still be saving the Tabernacle tax dollars. For anybody who's not good at math, 850,000 times 10 is $8.5 million, and that's less than you stated for the new complex. Think about it. What other legitimate investment opportunity gives it 10 times return in 4 years? They're pretty rare. It would be fiscally irresponsible for them not to take you up on the offer. Furthermore, you'd be coming at them from a position of power. If they decline the offer, you could still take it in eminent domain. It might be tied to the courts for a few years, but my guess is it would be done even before the town complex would be complete. Second, the mistake you made at the last meeting, like I said, you made an announcement about that. So, short version of this is: you could have taken Mr. Barton's $1.5 million that he had somebody offer. If he had talked to that engineer that you wanted, offer the engineer a contract to do a quick inspection, contingent upon Mr. Barton being able to get his donator, I don't know what the correct term is, to put that into escrow by the end of the week. Could have had a subcommittee review that report. You could have even had a public meeting in compliance with the OPMA in that time frame within that first week. Instead, you did nothing. You had a lot of brain power in the room last time. I know the temperature was running hot, but you could have done better to solicit input from the audience. Rather than doing any of these things, you ran in fear of potentially paying this, I believe it was mentioned, a $50,000 cancellation fee for this demolition contract. You had a lot of options that would have gone a long way to quelling a lot of the unrest rumors and anger running through this town. Instead, you did nothing. Third, as I mentioned, this town has a major communication problem. And no, I'm not talking about how you typically decline to respond to comments at open public session. I mean, for example, there are a lot of people who are surprised by the road closure, myself included. At your last meeting, I'm not sure which of you said it, but one of you said that it was a county road, not a township road, so you had no authority to close it. And that was the end of the conversation about that topic. I looked at the pictures in the report by Pannoni, and although I see structural damage, I am not qualified to determine whether that building is about to collapse. I don't know. But taking Mr. Boyd and Ms. Lace at their words, I was concerned about both about traffic passing by the building, as well as the logistical issue of rerouting over a dozen buses that go to and from the schools. When I spoke with the school superintendent in person Wednesday night after the school play, which was hours after the road had been closed, he said that no one from the township had reached out to him to tell him that the building was in danger or that the road was going to be closed, until he called the township to ask. Later, the road closure advisory notification gives zero information as to why the road was being closed. There are far more people in town than people in this room, and I guarantee you a lot of them don't know why the road was being closed. There are a number of other examples as well. For example, Mr. Lemire talked about the parade that's scheduled for Memorial Day. Somebody posted on Facebook today, are the roads still going to be closed at that point? Nobody really knows. Now, I know that it's supposed to open up when the demolition is complete, or at least that's the way I understand it, but who knows? I used to attend township meetings regularly. I haven't come regularly in years, but I still try to stay aware of what's going on in town, including reading the published agendas before every meeting, just in case there's an issue I feel strongly about. Until someone posted a link to it on social media, I had no idea you have a full page on your website listing publicly available information about the new town complex. Yes, you do have a link to it on your homepage, but it's in no way obvious. It gets lost in a row of other typical township business icons. You also have it in your navigation menu, but it just says town hall. It doesn't say anything about the new complex that is obvious to anybody perusing the website. You need to do better. People need to know what's going on and why. You have multiple options at your disposal. From changing the content on your website and or changing how the content is laid out, to emailing flyers, using a phone call service, you have options. Do better. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you again all for coming out. My name is Carol Ray Reiner. I'm 11 Fox Chase. I'm also the secretary and on the executive board of the Historical Society. We've survived an earthquake and a near monsoon, and I'm hoping by the beginning of the conversation that we heard that you are going to in fact reconsider an engineering assessment or an additional engineering assessment on the building. Yes? Okay. And to pick up on what I heard Mr. McNaughton say, are we considering using somebody in-house or one of our professionals or an independent to come in and give us a fresh set of eyes?
We'll be discussing that.
You will be discussing it. Okay, thank you.
Councilor for public comment?
Ray McCarty, 368 Tuckerton Road. I'm here tonight as the chairman of the Tabernacle Land Development Board. I expected another agenda item to be listed, and I was surprised there was not. I assume it's just an unfortunate oversight. At the April 3rd LDB meeting, by unanimous vote, we asked our solicitor to write to the governing body our thoughts about the construction of Town Hall. I read it into the record now. From the letterhead of David C. Frank, attorney at law. Dear Mayor and Committee, at its April 3rd, 2024 meeting, the Land Development Board discussed the impending demolition of Town Hall and directed me to write to you to express their concerns about the proposed action. The board recognizes that it is a subordinate body under the township, and the ultimate responsibility and authority with regard to a decision lies with the Township Committee. Nevertheless, the board wishes respectfully to place before the committee some considerations of which members of the committee may not be aware. First among these considerations is the important role of the existing town hall under the Township Master Plan. The plan's goals, discussion calls for efforts to, quote, preserve and enhance areas with historical, cultural, scenic, and recreational value, end quote. Second, the designation under Tabernacle's duly adopted ordinances, Town Hall is only one of 3 buildings, quote, established as historic sites to be preserved and protected in the Tabernacle, end quote. That's Tabernacle Ordinance 17-43J. Because Town Hall is so designated a certificate of because Town Hall is so designated, a certificate of appropriateness is required to be issued by the Land Development Board prior to any demolition. Tabernacle Ordinance 1743C-1. No application certificate of appropriateness has been submitted or reviewed by the Land Development Board. Such an application would include information necessary for the determination as to the means of the preservation of the designated cultural resource. Tabernacle Ordinance 1743D. Thus, any demolition of Town Hall prior to the certificate of appropriateness would be contrary to Tabernacle's duly adopted ordinances, as well as being in conflict with stated goals of the Township's master plan. The Township's ordinances and master plan were adopted by the Township Committee and the Land Development Board respectfully in furtherance of important public policies that seek to preserve and protect the history of the community. A rush to the demolition of Town Hall without fulfillment of all relevant legal obligations violates both the letter and the spirit of the town's laws. Tabernacle Township Land Development Board respectfully requests that the Township Committee follow the procedure of the Township's duly appointed adopted ordinances by preparing and submitting for review the Land Development Board an application for certificate of appropriateness in accord with the requirements and standards set forth in Tabernacle Ordinance 1743, signed by David C. Frank. Now, I hope you've added a discussion item about this tonight. The LDB stands ready to schedule an emergency meeting to hear your application for certificate of appropriateness. Once you are ready, we need 48 hours.
Mr.
to
McBride,
finish
thanks for your
that
comment.
meeting.
Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
It's not China.
Councilman, comment.
Stuart Brooks, Moores Meadow Road, good evening. You've made lots of justifications for demolishing historic town hall. You fool yourselves. I'll explain and I'll urge you to reconsider. You said the problem is that everyone else ignored town hall and you confused routine maintenance with your failure to act on the 2021 report. That report was notice to you that immediate long-term repairs are needed to be considered. That's a quotation. What did you do besides making a rush decision to demolish it? Ms. Stone said saving town hall was sentimental. That's her personal opinion. The master plan says saving town center is the #1 goal. Your village green plan makes town hall the centerpiece, agreeing with the master plan. And the people who've been here for standing room only meetings, as far as I can tell, also agree. You said saving town hall costs too much, but you knew that cost when you made town green. The estimates in the 2021 report, and hasn't changed that much. You said demolition was needed to protect public safety, but your civil engineer said he wasn't a structural engineer. Your architect said he thought he saw the south wall bowing out, but didn't measure it. Actual measurement apparently shows that it's not bowing at all. Tom Boyd said that he saw the beam was deflected, but didn't measure it. You rejected every effort to verify what you were told. Frankly, it's not until today that I'm happy to hear that you're considering a structural engineer. I support that should be an independent engineer. I have to question how that announcement came up. It's not an agenda item. Since when does someone just say, well, I'm gonna do this? It should be a public item of business, not just an announcement by the mayor that you're gonna do it. To continue, you said that you're the ones getting things done. We say you're doing irreversibly bad things that Tabernacle doesn't want. At the reorg meeting, 3 of you voted against more workshop meetings, saying that you already meet enough. Also adding, if anything important comes up, you can always call a special meeting. Well, you didn't call a special meeting for Old Town Hall. Instead, you actually canceled the next workshop meeting where it could have been thoroughly discussed, and there's been no explanation why. You said our words hurt you and we should be nicer. We've earned every bit of criticism that you get on Town Hall, you really have. If it hurts, this job's not for you. Go home, spend more time with your family, get a dog if you want. You also said we should just look forward. Well, I do look forward. I see that if Town Hall is demolished, Tabernacle's historic town center will look like it's part of the church's front yard, and a tangible piece of history will be gone. I also see that demolition would open up that site and change the whole rationale of the municipal complex. The work week's shrinking, more positions are part-time and remote. Public Works can go to the landfill site. The school board can be approached about their septic system. I see people asking why you're spending millions on a large building on a huge site. You've never seriously considered other options, just like Mr. Litowitz said. Now's the time before you spend even more money, but to look backward. At last meeting, you authorized $500,000 for architectural work in the complex, refusing to even discuss it at the next meeting. It was a thoughtless, just do it decision. Last, I really do look forward to your leaving office, and the sooner the better.
Fran Brooks, Moores Meadow Road. I'd like to clear the record.
When I was on Township Committee, there was nothing wrong with historic town hall. The people who are accusing previous committees of not taking action know anything about what went on in the township. They've never participated in local government or regularly attended any meetings in the last 2 decades. And that includes Deputy Clerk Ms. Stone, who has only lived in Tabernacle for 4 years. The only relevant issue at hand is the 2021 Town Hall report that Stuart just spoke about, which applies to you, not previous committees. You took no action except to demolish the building. Your engineer publicly says he's not a structural engineer, and you listen to him. It is obvious that Hartman and Moore never read the 2021 report, and you, Ms. Stone, have no appreciation for history and the history of the township. Mr. Boyd claims he inspected the building monthly. How can this be? He never attended a meeting to discuss findings, never sent an email to committee members regarding the condition of the building. He's just doing CYA. It's shameful. Mr. Hartman and Mr. Moore were on the LDB, yet know nothing about our land use code. Mr. Stone was appointed to the LDB, and he knows nothing about our land use code or local government. Mrs. Stone, your behavior is unbecoming to an elected official. At the February 26th Township meeting, you made the comment that you could be Netflix and chillin' with your husband instead of being an elected official. Now, for those in the audience who don't know what Netflix and chill means, it's slang for having sexual relations with your partner. Now, I don't care what you do in the privacy of your home.
I didn't know that.
But that statement, that's the problem, Mrs. Stone.
I don't read
But that statement, don't just read Wikipedia, that's the simplest place to go. That is a slang term, but that statement has no place in a public meeting. It is totally unbecoming to an elected official. You have loose lips and no shame. You should resign from office and take Hartman and Moore with you. Finally, I would like to know why a closed session is not on tonight's agenda. Stuart Brooks and I filed litigation against Mary Alice Brown, the Township of Tabernacle, the Township of Woodland, and Mr. Moore and Mr. Hartman regarding their petitions. That, I would think, would be a subject of discussion tonight, since it's very time sensitive. But we see nothing on the agenda. Thank you.
Public comment?
Bill Buron from 11 Jessica Court. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I apologize if I'm asking questions that I should already know. In the agenda for March 25th, there was an attachment showing a bid from one architect for new services for the new proposed building. My question is, what is the limit that a no bid contract can be awarded for by the town? The bid in question is $585,000.
They don't answer questions.
Okay. It also wasn't on the agenda. Someone did say that it was voted on, and I would just like to know if it was or was not. I wasn't here, so if you could also decide on that. I just think you can get a better price if you went out to bid, as you're likely probably required to do. That's all.
Ian McDowell, 14 New Road. I'm the gentleman who shot the south side of the town hall. I shot it 2 days on Wednesday after your March 25th meeting. After it was said that it was gonna fall into Metro Lakes Tabernacle Road, and we had the roadblocks set up, which I find to be ridiculous. I think most of the people in town find it ridiculous. Shot it again today after an earthquake, after all the wind and rain, with a separate instrument. Same results. Same. You have on the east side of that south wall, 3/8 of an inch out of plumb, bottom to top. Middle of the building, 3/8 out of inch, bottom to top. And to the west, if anyone's confused, that's towards 206. That's the worst, that's 7/8 of an inch, we're talking about a 150-year-old building here. And people have and that meeting on the 25th was just so bizarre to me, I hadn't been to one in a little bit. But Mayor Hartman, you warned Tabernacle taxpayers, then you pointed to troopers and asked them to escort them out. You did it to, yeah, Mr. Ward, and I believe you tried to do it with Mrs. Brooks. But yet we allowed a woman from Medford to shout out, oh, what if the building magically falls onto a school bus full of kids? And she was allowed to carry on without you giving her a warning, without you asking a trooper to escort her out. Does she get special treatment because she's friends with Natalie Stone? Why does a Medford resident get special treatment at a Tabernacle Town Hall meeting? I know, you don't answer questions. At the end of the meeting, that same woman, right, so I walked over to the water fountain close to it. Mr. Boyd was standing about 5 feet from me. That same woman got up, walked over to Mr. Boyd with a smile on her face and says, did you hear my comment about the school bus? About the building falling on the school bus? They're both smiling. He said, that was you? Because he couldn't see her because she was directed behind him when she made the comment. And they both had like a little giggle about it. I'm like, we pay this gentleman? I mean, he's the same one who made a comment about not having a calculator when he's saying he sees things by eye moving. We had someone else saying that when they were standing in the Nixon's parking lot, they can see movement in the building. Like, what are we talking about here? By eye, we pay for that? I mean, I'm not asking for a payment for what I did. It took me maybe 30 minutes each time. There's nothing by eye. I mean, unless somebody can stand there and look up at a wall and go, yeah, that's an 1/8 inch out. Like, we gotta get serious here. Mr. Boyd, any comment on the smirk and laugh about a woman making a comment about our
Thanks for
school
sir.
buses?
Time's
Is my
up.
time up? Thank you. Are we gonna answer you?
I'm Danielle Hartman, 319 Corinth Road. I know you mentioned that you were going to get somebody out to look at the building. I'd like to ask that you expedite it, because I think the road closure is really hurting our community businesses that are like half full right now. When I drive down the road and I see Russo's half full, and I drive down and I see Village Pub half full, it's clear that the community does not want the changes that you're making, and you guys work for us. We elected you and you work for us. We don't want the town hall torn down. We don't want this big building built, and we want the road open again. Thank you.
Anyone else gonna get public comment?
Carol Pulaski, Broadwood Court. For your information, I was in the parking lot for the Church of Holy Eucharist on Saturday morning from 7:45 to about 10. I counted cars from 7:45 to 9 that sped through that parking lot that didn't stop. There were 25. And then a state trooper came. And he would catch someone coming in off of Tabernacle Lakes Medford Road, and somebody would come in off of Carranza Road, come through, pass him by. He couldn't do anything because he was already writing a ticket. And then 2 more state troopers joined him. That was 3. Do you know that they were all busy and people were still coming through and speeding? We have got to open up that road. It's dangerous to be in that parking lot. It's dangerous for people to come through. There was actually something posted on Facebook that said, don't worry, if you stay to the right, the church is okay. That's not true. The church is not okay if you stay to the right. We need to open this road. Thank you.
Jack Cox, 34 Corinth Road. Due to the road closure, Burlington County Engineer is also required to notify schools, fire department, rescue squad, the Burlington County Office of Emergency Management, and the Central Communication Command. Just wondering if you guys do that. My own personal thought too, if you get a flat tire on your car, do you drive until all 4 tires kind of go and the car gets towed, or do you fix the town hall? If you fix town hall when it needs to be fixed, then we don't get into this kind of situation.
Anyone else for public comment?
Kim Ware, 452 Carranza Road. I'm also the owner of Ware's Farm Supply, and I was not planning on speaking today. I'm very nervous, but I'm gonna say I'm gonna follow up with that woman's comment. Since that road's been closed, my sales have plummeted to my store, plummeted. You need to open it back up. It's ridiculous and insane, and it literally makes no sense. I mean, it just makes no sense. That's all I'm gonna say, and I think everyone can agree to that, for sure. And also, obviously, safe town hall, and, see you later.
Anyone else?
Hey, how y'all doing? My name's Patrick Duff. I have a blog called Rabble Rouser. Really, I'm here, I mean, if you guys are gonna send a structural engineer, I'm gonna recommend East and Hood. They're the best out of Philadelphia. They've already been contacted. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me a little bit of the building that was on 42, and they took down the woods, and they realized that there was this historic building in the way of building Route 42, that little break in Route 42 as it comes over. And what they did is the Historical Society of Camden County filed an injunction, and it was to be heard Monday morning. And that Sunday, the DOT went out and tore the building down. They ripped the building down, the injunction was never heard. So guess what? Similar to this, where I hear next week you guys are gonna tear down the building, so I was gonna recommend you don't do that. Because what happened was, I don't know if you saw, but the entire highway in that area, about 30 yards from where they tore the building down, collapsed. It collapsed and it caused about a 7-year backup on the highway where it was supposed to be built. This is an opposite situation where I think that you have stuff and history of that building that you have not even begun to discover yet. You have a building that has been there for 150 years. What's so interesting about that is it's older than your town. The word tabernacle means a house of worship. The building was built by a order of, basically a private order that, of people that believed in a spiritual creator that used that house as their house of worship. And the original building that Tabernacle was named after is no longer here. So your tabernacle of Tabernacle is that building. And to think that you'd want to tear that down and do so quickly, without any second opinions, with somebody claiming they can see a beam bent by their eye. I mean, seriously, I want to try to help. And the way that any of this can be helped is usually communication, right? Nobody has communicated online with any of the residents. There's been hundreds of people posting and communicating and talking. The only person that communicated was the deputy mayor's husband. And I think that that is shameful. I mean, this is your town, mayor. I mean, you are the mayor of the town, and you're proud to be the mayor, I'm sure. Well, be proud to be the mayor and stand the hell up and confront the people and talk to them when they have an issue. You know, listen, I saw the Facebook posts you're making, we're gonna basically, forget those people tonight, we're gonna get them, like you were some sort of tough guys or something. Like, that is absolutely heinous. When you have elected officials, and this is what I'll say, the people that got hurt, your businesses are getting hurt, sue these bastards. Sue them. File a class action suit for Russo's and the other buildings. And if that building is not off, Mr. Burns, let's say the structural engineer goes out there and finds it's not off. What kind of fraud are you trying to commit on this township, Mr. Burns? What kind of fraud is that? I mean, that's fraud. That's clear fraud. Wouldn't you say? If I came to your household and I said, you know what, this building needs to come down because I noticed that the roof is out of line. And I called up the building inspector for wherever you live, and they came out. He was a friend of mine, maybe. We agreed that the building was off. Would you tear your own house down? No, you'd go get a second opinion, right? You try to get a second opinion to see what happened. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
And please get the structural engineer out, Keystone Hood.
Anyone else have a comment?
Hi, I wasn't gonna get up and say anything. Kim Kreisler, your former neighbor, but you gave me this the guts to do this. A couple years ago, I don't know when it was, when you were going around collecting names to get your name on the ballot, I signed for you. And I clearly remember you saying you wanted to get on the committee because people were moving in. They were coming in from the north, they were coming in from all over, and you wanted to keep Tabernacle. You wanted to keep the people that wanted to change our wonderful town. You wanted to be the voice of the people. And I'm just really upset that, you know, I haven't been to these meetings. We used to come. The old committee took care of a drug problem that we had on Summit Drive. They were wonderful. And to hear that, you know, I mean, just get the independent engineer and take it from there, but do not want to go. I mean, you're doing it now because people have spoken out. But I'm really, I don't know, I just wanted to say to you personally, you know, that's why I signed the petition. So I hope that you can start taking care of the people of the town. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else make a public comment? Okay, close out public comment.
Mr. Mayor, can I make comments about the LDB meeting from last week?
You're doing your public comment?
I thought you just closed it.
I mean, you're doing reports.
I think there's something important you said now. At the LGB meeting, Mr. McDowell came up and he gave his report on his sightings on the town hall. And we had the fortitude to ask him what his qualifications were to do that. And it seems like, I don't know if you want to hear his qualifications now, he is extremely qualified to make those calculations. He does it every day in the business working for construction companies and engineering. So I put a lot of faith in what he said. But at the land development board, we actually asked him his qualifications, which I think is very important if someone's going to make a statement like that.
Reports.
So we have the tree ordinance in front of you that was introduced at last month's meeting, just for introduction only, and we said that it was too restricted for Tabernacle, and that you, committee, wanted to discuss it. Mr. Cutts, who is a cranberry farmer, I forwarded you his letter. He also had Mr. Frank from the LDB. Mr. Cutts was able to redo the ordinance for Piles Grove and submitted it to DEP with some slight modifications. The biggest one being that they put in there that there was an exception for land used for agricultural purposes. So, we have the ordinance up for adoption at next meeting, not tonight. And committee was going to review and let me know what things they wanted to have changed or added or modified.
Yes, I have a few comments. It would have been nice to have this before the next meeting, so I could have read it and understood it.
I just received it, Mr. McDonald.
Okay, that's fine.
I did send you Mr. Cutts' letter last week.
Yeah, I got that, thank you, I appreciate that. I went to the DEP website and I downloaded their model ordinance, which the ordinance, I haven't seen Mr. Lefty wrote that ordinance for us.
He took the model ordinance
And filled it in.
and modified it for our town.
You know, I asked him, I made a big question about the fees, and in the model ordinances, it says that to be determined by town, who determines those fees that were put in that ordinance for us?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
All right, in the model ordinance.
It was in the,
The model ordinance?
example that I was given.
No, off the website of DEP, it says the application fees are to be determined by the town.
What I'm saying is when I was given the model to propose to committee,
Well,
it
who
had
did
the
you get the
fees
model
in it.
from?
We got the model from Panoni.
Right, it's the Western, or somebody wrote it, right. I also found out that originally, this ordinance was supposed to be in effect by January first for this past year. And then they extended it to May first. How come we're getting it now, and we didn't get it back last fall, or even January, February, when we had time to do this? Now, we had a long discussion about this at the LDB, and this is actually an ordinance that should be reviewed by the Land Development Board, if I'm correct. And of course, that wasn't done.
It gets reviewed to the LDB after introduction.
Okay, fine.
I was waiting to see what your modifications were
Okay.
prior to sending it to the
Okay.
LDB.
There's a number of towns in this area that are kind of like working together to come up with a ordinance that suits this area. Before we make any decisions, I would like to, as soon as possible, contact those towns. I think Chesterfield, Shaman, I think Southampton or one, I don't know who else is involved in that. Because this ordinance is absolutely ridiculous for a town like, I don't know how I don't know, given the model from DEP, I do not know how we can make it work for Tabernacle and these other towns. I think the whole committee agrees with me on that. So I think if, our administrator could contact these, you can use Dave Frank, because he's working with a lot of these towns. Maybe tomorrow, contact Dave Frank, work with these other towns, and hopefully by our next meeting, we can come up with something. If we missed the May first deadline, so what? Let's make it right for us.
Do we need a motion, Bill, for that?
Did you want to rescind the original introduction? Or did you just, okay.
And if we change it enough, then we're gonna have to introduce it again anyway.
I think no matter what,
We're gonna have to introduce it again anyway.
so the committee should endeavor to try to get a remodel of the ordinance by the next meeting.
Absolutely.
And that'll be introduced for first reading.
I think Washington was part of it too.
Was Chesterfield definitely part of it?
I think so. I don't remember the names that Dave Frank gave me.
Dave Frank's house?
Yes. Thank you.
Springfield, Southampton, Tabernacle, and Shaman.
No Washington?
Mr. Frank does not mention Washington. I don't know if Washington's involved or not.
Any more discussion?
If you would like, Mr. Mayor, when you get something, Mary Alice, I would like to help you with it.
Absolutely.
If also, do you mind, Mayor, if I'd like to be part of it with Noble?
Good. Thank you.
Done all right?
Perfect.
Sam, you want to start a subcommittee when you still on it?
I don't know, do we need a sub, I don't think we need a subcommittee.
We got two and a half subcommittees already.
Yeah.
Two of us are gonna work on
Yeah,
it.
we're fine, Noble and I will work on that.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate that.
Okay, I also received, from the Pinelands Commission, they are making amendments to the CMP. These amendments are to be adopted by July 17th. No, excuse me. Water management for December 4th. But the July 17th is for the stormwater management. It is a two-part ordinance. It has not yet been introduced. I just got it. I'm giving it to committee to review. They have the suggested wording in there, and they show what they are changing. So if committee wants, I can introduce this ordinance with their suggestions. If committee wants to wait and give me suggestions, I can do the introduction?
I would rather wait it.
Wait,
You
okay.
know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, I gave you the letter
Well,
from.
no, it's gonna, like, just so procedurally, you're gonna try to get those suggestions to the administrator before the next meeting.
Right.
It's not gonna be introduced tonight.
No, that's.
So it's never gonna be
my intention.
introduced tonight, so whatever suggestions there are. I will tell you that I did have anticipating that people would have some, qualms.
But it's coming from DEP, and you expect that?
I did. I did talk to the Pinelands, and even though it's not technically a Pinelands Commission ordinance, they are looking to have it adopted as it is, but that's not to say we can't try and we can run something up the flag. Absolutely.
Okay, so whatever suggestions or ideas you wanna email me, please. Third thing.
Let me chime in, and if I could stress the timeliness of that, because if you get the suggestions to Ms. Brown and I,
As soon as you get it to me, I'll give you suggestions next up.
and then we can get them to Pinelands to see if they'll approve them.
Thirdly, we have, at the last meeting, we had the resolution on to, release the bond. There was some discussion at that meeting. I was requested to table this resolution until this month's meeting, or this week's meeting. In the meantime, I reached out to Joe Gray. We had Mr. Gray from CME saying the basins were complete. We had residents and the HOA saying the basins were incomplete. I received an email at like 5:15 this evening that Mr. Gray now is, agreeing with the residents and that the basins are not working and that the, developer engineer has to come up with a plan and submit it. So at this time, if we can please table this resolution again to an unknown time when I get the development, excuse me, the approved development plan back.
So moved.
We don't have to. do that. Thank you. And lastly, at the last month's meeting, I had discussed with committee, Woodland Township is interested in a shared service for the asphalt, hot box. I did make some phone calls. I gave you the breakdown of the price, for a 7-hour day, all in is $1635.50. If committee sees fit with that, would just like a motion if you agree.
Get a second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Doing a shared service agreement with Woodland Township for the hot box.
Any discussion, sorry.
What was the amount per day?
35.
That's for one township employee to run the machine, and then a Woodland employee to assist him. The rental of the hot box, the material, the gasoline for both the machine and the truck, the employee's rate.
Anyone else?
We can't get our potholes fixed out here on our street now.
Please,
You
sir.
want to say
Please,
from Woodland?
please, sir. Roll call, please.
Really?
Mr. McNaught.
Why don't you fix
Yes.
Austin's Road?
Mr. Sprague.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Ms. Stone. Mayor.
Yes.
Hi, CFO.
I've nothing to. Thank you, sir. Engineer? Mr. Boyd, you have anything to say?
Do you want any responses to? Just some of the responses to some of the questions and or statements that were made. Mr. Brooks, Mr. McDowell, and Mr. Duff all said that there were no measurements, but Mr. Brooks, I knew you were here in January. You actually saw the pictures of the measurements that I took, showing the steel beam that was out 1.5 inches and 4 feet, and the administrator's office was out 4 inches and 12 feet.
January?
Yes, sir, that was in January.
I was referring to your last report in, I think, in February 26. I thought that's what you said.
So that's where it was. I did in fact refer to that. it would not be appropriate for me to respond to committee members. It would be appropriate for direct communication with the administrator. And then it was one other thing that. And there were in fact second opinions on the status of the building, so I just want to make that known. Thank you.
Very briefly, this evening, on the way in, I jokingly said to Ms. Brooks that we were gonna find something to agree on tonight. I do agree with her that they did send courtesy copies of the order to show cause. I did not have an opportunity to read it yet, and I spoke with the Brooks in the parking lot actually, so I can't advise the committee really what it's about. I know it is challenging. I don't even know if it's all three. It's challenging at least two, if not three petitions of two people running for a position and the like. I will endeavor to research that tomorrow, figure out where we're at with that and go from there. But I was not able to review all of the documents that are right.
All right, so we're gonna talk about that. We'll go,
And then the business of which you had a motion initially trying to do this procedurally was to appoint Beach Engineering as well as Jay Rosen to authorize Jay Rosen to come in and review it. I think before there was so you should, and then I'll get to Mr. Nance in a second. So if that was your intent, I would suggest making that motion and see if there's a second, then have discussion. And that'll give Mr. McNaughton an opportunity to try to amend it, or if there's not a second, then he's gonna add his motion.
a motion, Beach and Jay Rosen.
So it would be really two opinions, so it would be Beach to come in and reevaluate and provide a supplemental letter, and then Jay Rosen, who hasn't been affiliated with the project, who is an engineer as well, to come in and do an independent evaluation.
A structural engineer?
I believe that is correct. But Beach is definitely the structure.
I think we're gonna have discussion. Motion for that? I made the motion. Anyone second?
For Beach and Rosen? I'll second.
Now, discussion.
Sorry.
This Rosen, is he a structural engineer, does he deal with all buildings or not? I think because that's a very important aspect.
He does, Mr. McNaughton, as well as Mr. Beach, and I'm trying to find out in his report where he does it, but I know that Mr. Beach is very involved in Haddonfield with a lot of their historical buildings.
I would still prefer an independent engineer that we haven't had involved in the project. And just for clarification, at the last meeting, I made a motion to do such a thing, was voted down. But the reason it's coming up tonight is because they finally filed a application with Pinelands, and Pinelands told them they need to get an independent engineer. And that's why we're doing it. Well, we had a motion, so I have a motion by.
All right, so, I got it. So procedurally, Mr. McNaughton's making a motion to amend, who made the original motion?
Mr. Moore.
To amend Mr. Moore's motion to appoint Beach, to have two separate appointments, one for Beach and one to authorize Mr. Rosen to do the inspection. Mr. McNaughton is making a motion to amend that to appoint, neither of those two, but to appoint an independent structural engineer who specializes in historical buildings. Do you have anybody in mind?
I don't, but I can have some names for you tomorrow.
Okay, so it would just be to appoint neither of those, but to appoint a another independent structural engineer with expertise in historical building. So that, I think that's your motion?
Yes.
All right, to affirm to be named later, okay? So there, that's the motion, and is there a second on that? No, there's no roll call on the first, because it's a request to amend the germane motion. I'm assuming, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Moore, you're not accepting that as a friendly amendment?
No, because of, you know.
I really gotta bring it up. All right, so there's been a motion. He's not willing to accept it as a friendly amendment. So there's a motion to amend the germane motion. Is there a second to that?
For Mr. McNaughton, yes.
All right, so there's been a motion and a second on the motion to amend. There is discussion on the amendment.
No, I'm confused. I made the original motion.
Yes, and you did not accept his amendment.
Oh, all right, I'm confused. I don't know what was going on.
We're, right now, we are discussing, you are discussing Mr. McNaughton's motion to amend your motion. That gets discussed and voted on first.
May I suggest, since there's two engineers, why don't you pick one of the two that have been suggested, and then Mr. McNaughton can supply the name.
What's the problem? I have all three. How many engineers do you want in? Expense.
We have each and every one of our heads, so we have that report. Where's that close?
I mean, we can sit here and keep throwing different engineers, this engineer, that one. That's what it is.
Can I call the question?
If there's no further, I'm not. If there's no further discussion, you can call the question on the amendment.
For a vote,
On the amendment.
On the amendment.
Do you all have microphones? We can't hear. Yeah.
All right, so there's no further discussion on the amendment, so. So then the appropriate action now would be to vote on the amendment.
Roll call.
Mr. McNaughton.
Yes.
Mr. Sprague.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
No.
Ms. Stone.
No.
Mayor.
No. So we're back to the original motion, and the original motion is to authorize Beach Engineering and Jay Rosen to go into the municipal building to reevaluate and evaluate the building.
Wait, listen to the people. Don't waste
We're here for us. Please, please, the quorum for the bill. I understand how you feel, but please, the quorum. Thank you.
Hold on a second. How much is it to have the third?
It would have to go out to RFP.
I'm gonna spend 9 years on it.
Now you're worried about money.
How much is the road budget?
It's our money. It's our money. It's not your money.
So I need a motion. You guys call me years.
Bill, we already had a motion right for me.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was it?
We already motioned.
The motion on the table now that you're discussing is your original motion to allow Beach and Jay Rosen to go through and reevaluate the text. Yes.
No, that was made by
There's
Mr. Moore,
discussion on
seconded by
that
Ms.
motion.
Stone.
If there's no further discussion, there's proper action, roll call on that motion.
Roll call.
Mr. McNaughton.
No.
Mr. Sprague.
Absolutely no.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Ms. Stone.
1000% yes.
So, to be clear, so the committee has just authorized Beach Engineering and Jay Rosen to evaluate, or to reevaluate and to evaluate the structure.
That it be amount not to
You're gonna get a
exceed
lawsuit.
65.
Yep. Lawsuit.
Pass that, you'll get a
Oh,
lawsuit.
please stop.
Resign.
Committee reports. Mr. McDonald.
That's my hand instead of mouth.
All right. Wow.
But no, I do have something to say. 6 weeks ago at the, what is it, the January meeting? February meeting. Budget committee was formed. It was myself and Mr. Stone. I had heard absolutely nothing about it.
Was at the March
At the March
meeting.
meeting. At the March meeting, and, 2 weeks ago. All right, well, I haven't heard anything. I know the budget's due soon. Is there any anticipation of the meeting?
Mr. Haynes and I were just discussing tonight, he's gonna get me some dates.
Thank you. Okay, another thing about the cost of the redoing town hall and the new town hall. Trailers are functioning very well.
Yes.
We could spend 30 years in those trailers with rent, not cost as much as the new town hall. Maybe we should reallocate some of that bond to fit the old town hall.
That's it, you're right on. Right on. Right on.
Mr. Sprague, you have anything?
Yeah. First off, I want to apologize. At the last meeting, I lost my temper with the lack of transparency that is on this committee, the slow roll of information or the lack of information. And I lost my temper, and I apologize for that. I don't apologize for my words, my words were accurate.
Can't hear you.
And with,
Speak up. I know the only thing to speak.
The last meeting, I lost my temper, and it was because of the lack of transparency with this committee. The slow roll of information, the lack of information, and it's been going on for a long time, all the way through until that last March workshop. That is very bizarre for anyone who doesn't realize what happened. For this committee to act, we need a quorum of 3. There were 3 people that were unavailable. Ms. Stone was in the hospital for surgery. Mr. Moore and Mr. Hartman were unavailable. The odds are immense. If one of those 2 people hadn't showed up, we would have changed direction of the town. But just by coincidence, they couldn't come, the meeting was canceled. And I think that is so inappropriate for what goes on in this town. Actually, it's appropriate, that's what happens here. It's about time that people step up and let people know, do something for these people. We've had somebody that came up the last meeting and was willing to put up $1.5 million. Ms. Stone said, your comment was, I'd like to meet him, because anybody could say that.
It's true, I would.
Yeah.
Put it in an escrow account and show us where that money is. If there's somebody willing to do that, put it in an account with a contract that it is earmarked for whatever purpose, not just anybody can say that.
Anybody can say that, that's correct. And instead of you saying that, you did not. You chose to move on. All you had to do, the 3 of you, was to say, that's an excellent idea, let's take it forward.
In my heart of hearts, it was a dramatic display by Mr. Barton to get the applause, but where is the person with the money?
if I wanted to donate $1.5 million to something that I was passionate about, I would physically put the money into the township account, give it to the lawyer, have a letter of intent.
If you're so willing to do that, okay? You did not take any of that into consideration. All you're gonna do is move forward. I know for, Mr. Hartman, you were on a phone call with Mr. Burns, with the, Mr. Lee, the engineer, and Mr. Noble. And, Mr. Noble, I'm sorry, Mr. McNaughton.
No, she was there.
He's moved away from the, and in that phone call, I believe, Mr. McNaughton said to you that, the Historical Society would like to have a second opinion, have their engineering. You came and you said, no. Mr. Burns and the engineer said, that's perfectly legal. And you said, no. Is any of this incorrect? Because Mr. McNaughton's sitting right here. If that hadn't happened, okay?
Can I clarify?
Sure.
It was Mr. Hartman who brought it to Mr. Burns, and Mr. Burns denied it. I mean, not Mr. Boyd. Our building inspector denied it.
Okay.
It wasn't the township committee, those people that.
For safety reasons, I'm sure that's what the permit is, okay? That's why we had to put a fence up, that's what we had to do. And because nobody else could be, because the building is better. But yet, literally, and I saw them, you had township employees 3 days before unloading records. So if it's unsafe for a second opinion to go in there, and it's not safe for township employees, which one is it?
They hold the safe house there. Literally the day before the road.
I don't remember being on a phone call conversation.
No, you weren't on the phone, but evidently.
I don't remember being approached by anybody from the historical committee.
No, I was on the phone call with Mr. Hartman, Mr. Burns, and Mr. Leslie. And I said, the Historical Society approached me about sending an independent engineer.
Okay.
Mr. Burns, Mr. Leslie said they had no problem with it. You said you went to the building inspector, and the building inspector said, no, one can go to the building.
Pursuant to the NJ Uniform Construction Code, that would be correct. Yes, sir.
That's fine, but I'm just making sure that everybody.
I don't remember the conversation with the historic, that's why I was very confused.
No, it was with
Okay.
the mayor.
Yes.
I just wanna make sure everybody understood exactly what happened.
That's all good, it's all an NJ code and all of that. But yet the township put their employees in there for hours unloading the boxes.
Oh.
It was literally 3 days before that phone call. So I don't understand how we can do code here and not care about the safety of the township employees. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Code will allow the contractors to be in there, sir.
Do you have it back?
So,
That an engineer could be a contractor. Yeah. An engineer is a contractor, he's a paid service.
I was approached, I apologize. Mr. Duff, yes. Yes, I was approached, he called me and asked me if he could have his contractor come in. That's the only person that I remember saying was.
And you told me no.
That is correct. No, I said that. Yeah.
You
Pursuant to.
said you could see the steel beam was bent by your eye.
No, you can, but I also, at the January meeting, stated that the steel beam had 1.5 inch deflection that it was measured.
Thank you.
All this is still, if that person.
Well, please, everyone, please.
would have no problem with that. Honest to God, like, if you would have spent what, and that, but hold on a second, that $1.5 million would cover the option, and people forget that I thought I was doing a good thing by ordering a cost analysis for all of the options. One of those options was to keep it secure, right? To keep it secure, to buy time. That $1.5 million would cover that. But you don't, you have one in one hand and a wish in the other, and what fills up first. Where's the money?
Talk to the person, Natalie.
You have the money. That's the irony of this. You have the money. You're taking it out of the ordinance illegally, actually.
Yeah, just with this, with the, with.
Hold on, please. No, please.
No. Call my name.
We want to hear it. Hey, you're 4 minutes long.
We want to hear it.
Get the favorite character and not let him speak.
Okay. Want me to go? Okay. So looking ahead, since we have the structural engineer gonna come in and take a look at everything and reevaluate.
The independent one.
Depending on what condition and what they say where we go. What would anybody think? And I don't want discussion here, but let's think about it for the future. What about the $1.5 million? We put it to another building for the community center to go. I'm throwing options and opportunities out there. That's what we're trying to do here. I think we've been about as open as we possibly can.
Get an independent engineer.
You gotta remember,
That's
every
an option.
person that has told me keep the building in the room, there's been several others that don't wanna make public comment, don't wanna. They're intimidated. So I'm just letting you know, remember, there are other people on the other side of the fence.
Well, they want to hear.
That's all I have to say.
Please. No. Since January, that there is a breakdown in communication in this township. It is beyond belief. So I would love our clerk to put a timeline together, because there's so much crap on social media, so much. Hold on, please. Now let you talk.
Hey, guys, give us a minute.
Get a timeline from the clerk of what happened since 2021. Some examples, and I wasn't here, it doesn't matter if I'm from Medford and I'm being called all kinds of, no, it doesn't. So in March of 21, if the township clerk could create a timeline from 2021, you discussed selling the building, demolishing the building, and rebuilding the building. Half of the things that are being Oprah and spending all the time and labor doing these Oprah requests, I feel like we need a part-time person just to deal with Oprah requests at this point. So get it done. You've got to do your job.
This is a democracy.
And then in May of 22, another part of the timeline, May of 22 was deemed unsafe. We were advised to repair or demolish 163 Transit. It was said many years ago the cancer started. How many years? By whom? June of 22, a subcommittee for the new building with Moore and Sunbury. What happened with that subcommittee? Carol mentioned an ad hoc committee. Where were you pushing for the township employees to form an ad hoc committee and take action?
We have been.
You have
I am Carol, and we have been.
Saying that the historical
and
society,
on
why
and
didn't
on.
they apply for historical status with the state? Why didn't they apply it? Whose fault is that? Application in September of '22, an application to land development board on subdivision, as well as Pinelands in Burlington County. A hearing scheduled in November, a budget discussion for the new building. You think that the old town hall has something to do with the new town hall? There's a secret agenda to knock down the old town hall just to reach the
4 minutes.
That's not our
Oh, please.
And
4
in
minutes.
December of '22, the committee authorized the solicitor to negotiate the purchase of the property. December, discussion of financial consideration for reconstruction or replacement of town hall. That was December 12th of 2022.
Do your
job
now.
Construction and replacement of town hall. This is what we've been talking about. To say that this is a rush job is absurd. When was the HVAC turned on? Why? Why did you pick Russo? Explain the Pinelands role to the public, that it has to be in the village, when everybody's talking about it being, where you can't see it. I don't know, every time I've gone into a township building to pay a bill, I didn't care where it was, but there's rules on the Pinelands of where it has to be. What are those rules?
Keep the trailers then.
There's,
Keep the trailers.
we need a timeline to the public and information to the public. I mean, for Mr. Lewis, I don't think that the township website is that hard to navigate. If I wanted something on town hall, there's a button that says town hall. All of the reports, all the engineering reports are in there, all of the minutes are in there since time began. You just, you have to go through it. To say that this is all a surprise, it's not a surprise. And I understand how emotional this is, and that people are passionate about it. But until the past, 2 months, where was the passion and the love for it when all of these things were brought up? Where were you?
We're here now.
We're here now.
We're here, for God's sake.
What's the hidden agenda?
There is no hidden agenda. There's no
Bullshit.
money.
All money.
There's no plans for personal use for that land for any of us. There's just so much other things to take care of than this.
Mayor Hartman, Mr. Martin and I were mentioned specifically, may we have a chance to respond? Thank you.
All right, enough right now, so we'll do adjournment.
Open up public comment just for
So
another
moved, so moved. Move to adjournment. Roll call.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Stone?
Public comment.
Mayor?
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, my God. Elections have consequences. They do. And they will.